everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have to admit, as a guy who has been watching these daytime dramas for decades, sitting here and chatting with all of you fellow soap fans, I am feeling an overwhelming sense of anticipation about Darcy arriving in Los Angeles. For weeks, I've been watching Dylan navigate her messy new romance with Will Spencer, and my gut has been telling me that there is a massive piece of the puzzle missing from this young woman's life. When a mysterious mother suddenly drops into town, it is never just for a friendly family visit, is it? I strongly believe that the writers are setting us up for a colossal revelation regarding the identity of Dylan's biological father. It makes me wonder if Darcy has been harboring a secret that could completely shatter the foundation of the Forrester family. My heart races just thinking about the emotional fallout that is bound to happen when the truth finally comes to light. Looking back at how Dylan was first brought onto our television screens, I felt a deep, profound sympathy for her situation. She started out simply as Hayes' teacher, a seemingly sweet and dedicated young woman who eventually became close to Elektra. But when we learned about her severe financial struggles, to the point where she was actually living in her car, my heart just broke for her. I remember thinking how terrifying and lonely it must be for a young girl to have no safety net in a city as glamorous and unforgiving as Los Angeles. It was Elektra who took pity on her, asking Will to let Dylan stay in the guest house on his massive estate. I evaluated that situation as a classic recipe for disaster, because gratitude often blurs the lines of boundaries. Now that her friendship with Elektra is completely destroyed and she has fallen into bed with Will, I cannot help but feel a mixture of worry and fascination about where her heart truly lies. Katie Logan has always been a fierce mother bear, and her recent interrogation of Dylan absolutely proved that her protective instincts are sharper than ever. I watched that scene with bated breath, feeling the intense tension radiating through the screen as Katie cornered Dylan in Will's beach house. When Dylan openly admitted that she used to follow the Spencer family in glossy magazines and was utterly captivated by their lavish lifestyle, I felt a sudden chill of suspicion. It is one thing to admire a wealthy family from afar, but it is entirely another to strategically place yourself in their inner circle and end up sleeping with the heir to the empire. Katie is entirely justified in her suspicions, and I completely agree with her assessment that Dylan's obsession might have started long before she ever set foot on the Spencer property. Do you think Dylan is a calculating opportunist, or is she just a deeply damaged girl looking for a place to belong? This brings me to a theory that has been making the rounds, and honestly, it has completely taken over my thoughts. What if Thorne Forrester is Dylan's biological father? I know there is no concrete proof yet, and the show has not dropped any blatant clues pointing directly at Thorne, but my intuition as a longtime viewer tells me this would be a masterstroke of storytelling. The timing of Darcy's arrival is just too perfect, and the mystery surrounding Dylan's paternity practically begs for a legacy character to step into the role. I evaluate this potential twist as something that would fundamentally alter the entire landscape of the show, shifting Dylan from a penniless outsider to a central figure in the most powerful family in the fashion world. It would give her a legitimate claim to the Forrester name, and I am incredibly excited about the dramatic possibilities that such a revelation would unleash upon everyone involved. When I think about Thorne's history, it makes perfect logical sense that he could have fathered a child without ever knowing it. Thorne has spent so much of his adult life living far away from Los Angeles, working in international offices, and trying to escape the shadow of his brother Ridge. During those long periods of isolation and travel, it is highly probable that he crossed paths with a woman like Darcy. Thorne has always been a hopeless romantic, a man who loves deeply and often gets his heart broken. His incredibly complicated romantic history with women like Caroline Spencer, Macy Alexander, Brooke Logan, Darla, and even Katie Logan shows that he is a man who throws himself entirely into relationships. I predict that Darcy was a brief but passionate chapter in one of Thorne's many absences from the city, a secret romance that resulted in a pregnancy she chose to hide from him. The most emotional aspect of this entire theory, and the part that actually brings tears to my eyes, is remembering the tragic fate of Thorne's only known daughter, Alexandria Allie Forrester. Back in 2015, when Allie lost her life, I felt a heavy, suffocating grief for Thorne. He had already endured the agonizing loss of Allie's mother, Darla, in that horrific accident years prior. Watching Thorne lose the child he raised alone, the last remaining piece of his beloved Darla, was one of the most heartbreaking eras of this show. He was completely devastated, a hollow shell of the vibrant man he used to be. The idea that he might unknowingly have another living daughter out there in the world fills me with such profound hope. I desperately want Thorne to experience the joy of being a father again, to have a piece of his heart restored after enduring so much unbearable tragedy. I can vividly imagine the sheer magnitude of the emotional explosion if Thorne returns to Los Angeles and discovers that he has a fully grown daughter. The guilt he would feel over missing her entire childhood, her first steps, and her graduations would be immense, but that would be quickly overshadowed by the overwhelming love he has to give. On the flip side, I try to put myself in Dylan's shoes, and my mind simply boggles at the psychological whiplash she would experience. One day, she is a desperate, starving teacher sleeping in the backseat of a cold car, and the next day she learns her grandfather is the legendary Eric Forrester. She would instantly become a member of Los Angeles royalty. I evaluate this potential storyline as a beautiful, redemptive arc that transcends the usual backstabbing and corporate espionage, offering a genuinely moving narrative about a fractured family finding its way back together. The sheer irony of the Spencer family connection in this scenario is so deliciously complicated that I cannot help but smile at the genius of it. Think about the deeply intertwined history here. Thorne was once married to Caroline Spencer, and decades later he was married to Katie Logan, Will's mother. If Dylan turns out to be Thorne's daughter, that means Katie is currently standing in a beach house aggressively interrogating her ex-husband's secret child about why she is sleeping with Katie's own son. It is the exact kind of messy, tangled web that makes daytime television so incredibly addictive. I do not believe Dylan is secretly targeting the Spencers because of Thorne, as she likely has no idea who her father is, but fate has hilariously drawn her right into the arms of the people most connected to her hidden lineage. How will Katie react when she realizes the girl she has been tearing down is the daughter of a man she once loved? Then we have the incredibly volatile situation with Elektra, which I find to be both frustrating and utterly captivating. Their friendship has completely disintegrated over Will, and I feel a deep sense of disappointment in how quickly they turned on each other. Elektra has been acting like a tremendously spoiled child lately, throwing her weight around and arbitrarily threatening to fire Dylan just because her feelings are hurt. I completely understand Dylan's defense that she suppressed her feelings for Will until Elektra ended things, but jealousy is a powerful, blinding emotion. I evaluate Elektra's current behavior as petty and vindictive, a stark contrast to the kindness she showed when she first helped Dylan get out of her car. If Dylan suddenly is revealed to be a Forrester, I predict Elektra's resentment will morph into an absolute fiery hatred that will scorch everyone around them. The corporate implications at Forrester Creations are what really make my mind spin with excitement. Elektra is currently positioning herself for a major, influential role within the family company, specifically eyeing the new youth fashion line that RJ has been passionately pitching to Eric. She clearly feels entitled to a seat at the table. But imagine the absolute chaos if Dylan, Eric's actual flesh and blood granddaughter, suddenly steps into the spotlight. A brand new, youthful Forrester heir would instantly threaten Elektra's ambitions and her carefully laid plans. I predict we are going to see a brutal, cutthroat rivalry between these two young women that extends far beyond the bedroom and spills right into the executive boardrooms of Forrester Creations. Will Eric favor his newly discovered granddaughter over Elektra, or will the company be torn apart by their bitter feud? As I sit back and reflect on all these moving pieces, I keep returning to Katie's deep-seated suspicions. I honestly think Katie is absolutely right that there is a massive, dark secret hiding in Dylan's past, but she is completely wrong about what that secret actually is. Katie is so focused on protecting Will from a perceived gold digger that she is entirely missing the bigger picture. She is looking for evidence of a malicious scheme, a calculated plot to drain the Spencer bank accounts. Instead, I firmly believe that Darcy's arrival is going to expose a truth that even Dylan herself is entirely blind to. It is not about Dylan manipulating her way into wealth. It is about destiny pulling a lost Forrester child back to her rightful home. I am feeling so incredibly anxious and excited for the upcoming episodes because once Darcy opens her mouth, nothing in Los Angeles will ever be the same again.